Hey, what's up guys? Austin back here in our video. This video is going to be about how to identify the perfect rod for you. And not just for you, but for certain applications out here. You hear about glass composite rod, you hear about a fiberglass rod, you hear about a graphite rod, graphite composite. You hear about 6'6" rods, 6-foot rods, 7-11 rods. So, what's all them for? Why do we as fishermen need all these lists, actions, and everything like that? So, most people's going to recommend something along the lines of this. This is exactly what I recommend. It's Falcon. Now, the brand don't matter. It can be St. Croix, it can be Abu Garcia, Shimano, Daiwa, Berkeley, whatever. It don't matter. Just whatever you're comfortable with in your price range. So, usually, people's going to recommend, and myself included, is going to recommend a 7-foot to a 7'3", not over a 7'3". And that will be more your all-purpose, all-around, do everything's rod. Now, for a spinning rod, you hear people talk about a 6'10" to a 7-foot or a 7'1" medium action. What's all that mean? How can I identify what rod's going to be best for certain applications when I'm in the store? Because I don't have access to a lake, I'm not actually got bait on the end of it or a reel or anything like that. So, first thing you can do is pick the rod up. Just hold it in your hand. Hold it exactly how you normally would. Or if you're in a smaller tackle store, you can ask for a reel to put on it. You just won't get the feel of it. They won't care. They're trying to make money. So they're going to be like, okay, here. You hold it. Well, I mean, it feels kind of tip heavy with this reel. Or it balances out pretty good with this reel. So now you know about what size frame reel you need to place on your rod. That gives you also an idea what I can do with the rod, how it balances it, how it's made. If it's made thick, then you know you need a heavier reel to help balance it out. That way it's not flopping out of your hand because it's too tip heavy. A lot of your glass rods are tip heavy because they are so thick. Okay. So, say that don't work. What can I do? You can take the tip of your rod. A lot of people do this number here. You can't do nothing like that because it's going to bow up literally literally, I've got it that. Take tip of your rod and press it against the ground, just a tad. You can literally even hold the butt end of the rod and just pretty much just do that. Like you end up with 3 fingers. Put your thumb here, your index on the butt, and your middle finger on the side. That gives you a general idea how much tip action you are working with. And by tip action, I mean, is it real fast, like a big parabolic bend, or is it more stiff, or what is it? So that gives you a better idea right there. Okay, how can you tell if something's sensitive? Because you can't feel bites. If you have someone that came in the store with you, mom, dad, grandparents, uncle, best friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, don't matter. You can say, hey, come here a minute. Okay, so you're holding the rod and you can put the tip of the rod on their chin, below their Adam's apple. Have them hum, and you can feel sensitivity that way. Now, some of these will trick you. These Falcon rods, they trick me. I did that, couldn't feel a thing, and I said, that's going to be pretty much crankbait, spinnerbait, chatterbait, whopper plopper, moving bait rods. And I tied on a jig one day, and I could actually feel trees, rock, and that's a $80 Falcon rod from Walmart. So that ain't really a good testimony there, I guess you could say. But that ain't what this is about. It's not about sensitivity. What it's about is, does it feel right to you? Does it balance really well? Do you think you can fish it as long as you generally fish? Or is this something you're going to fish for 30 minutes or an hour and won't put it down? If it's something you can fish, like me, generally when I go fishing, I fish 8, 10, 12 hours sometimes. Usually about 8, at least 8 hours. So I have to know in my head, is this a presentation or is this a rod I can fish confidently, effectively, and not be physically tired and mentally tired for 8 hours at bare minimum? And if the answer is yes, okay, then it feels good. It balances really well. If the answer is no, that rod's already off of your list. Now, let's talk about the actions, what those are for. Because I done taught you how to get it, how to see if it's even a rod you'd like to purchase. Next comes action. So, with everyone recommending a 7-foot medium heavy, some medium heavies is going to seem stiffer than other brands. Some's going to seem wimpier than other brands. Wimpier, I mean softer in the tip. Remember, parabolic bend. Okay, why is that? I mean, if it's a medium heavy, shouldn't it be the same? One would think, but that's not what rod companies think. Okay, so if you have a lot of parabolic bend, 9 times out of 10, if you're trying to throw a jig of some sort, you're not going to be able to get that weed guard to bend down, the hook to penetrate. Because a lot of people with a jig, they think, oh, the only thing I have to do is bend that guard down. A fish is going to do that when he bites it. Not all the time. Sometimes a fish can do just what I'm doing. I'm not even getting hooked. And then sometimes you feel it and he'll try to spit it out and you can set the hook. You can get his lip to hit that and bend it down just enough to penetrate that hook. So if your rod has a lot of give, a lot of parabolic bend, you're not going to do it. Same way with a Texas rig. If you have that hook exposed where it's actually down into the plastic, you have to set the hook hard enough, have enough power in your rod to make that hook, A, rip through the plastic, and B, rip through the fish's mouth. So, that may not be the rod for you. Now, if it's fairly stiff, then yeah, you can throw a jig, you can throw a Texas rig, you can throw a Carolina rig, you can throw a shaky head, everything like that. Now, you hear about, okay, why recommend 7-foot medium heavy? Because it is usually your universal rod. This one here, this is a Falcon Evo. I gave, I think $35 for this, and it is a 7-footer, 7-foot medium heavy action, 12 to 20 pound line, a 1/4 to 3/4 ounce weight. I can do almost everything I need to do with just this one rod because of the weight range. So weight range is important because you want a rod that's going to load up to help you launch that bait out there. If you're constantly putting all your force, all your muscle, everything you can do to swing that like a baseball bat, you're going to get tired throughout the day. You want your rod to load up some. That's why when you hear about glass composites, that's for cranking. Why? Because number one, crankbaits don't have to fly right, no way. They can wobble and everything. Number two, a crankbait, you're constantly cast, wind, cast, wind, cast, wind. I don't even care if you cast it and do this or whatever. I've saw people use a crankbait like a jerkbait. I've saw people use a crankbait like a topwater. I've saw people long line them. It doesn't matter. When you are slinging 3/4 of an ounce all day, you're going to get tired. I hate to break it to you. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort, because you're doing this motion all day. So you got your butt end of your rod in your left, and you're just all day. And if it's windy, you're definitely getting tired. But your glass composite rods are for cranking. Now, when you look at other rods, say that's not glass composite, like, for example, here's a 6'6" medium. Yeah, 6'6" medium. So what happens if this was a 7-foot medium? Then what? What's this rod for? This rod would be more along the lines for your finesse applications. So you can throw an underspin, you can throw a swim bait, you can throw a jerk bait, you can throw a tube. It's more for your exposed hooks, because once again, it don't have the tip, it don't have the backbone. I mean, it's bending. Well, let me skip that. It's bending that far back. It's bending right here. So are you going to be able to set the hook on a jig or a Texas rig? Probably not. You can catch a couple like that, but you will miss more bites than you will hook up with. That's where your medium heavy comes in. You don't need a heavy, because in my opinion, a heavy is more technique specific. When I hear of a heavy action rod, I think A-rig, I think flipping, I think hollow body swim baits, I think frogging, stuff like that. So if you can't do it with a medium, you can't do it with a heavy, then medium heavy's in the middle. It's the middle of the road. Now, here's another reason why you don't want a heavy. A lot of your heavies, unless you buy higher end heavy rods, a lot of them is heavy. They are just heavy. You're chucking an A-rig. You're flipping a 3/4 ounce and a half weight. You're chucking a swim bait that weighs 5/8, 7/8 of an ounce. Heavy applications need heavy gear. Now, if you're just throwing simple jig, Texas rig, Carolina rigs, stuff like that, you can get by with medium heavy. Medium heavy is still light. It's still a rod that balances really well. You don't need an oversized reel for it. You can take a 150 size reel and be just fine. I mean, usually you want your rods to balance somewhere back in here. I mean, this one ain't touching anything. And my balance points are right here. Right there. So, when I put my hand down, right here it feels like nothing. I'm not going to fish like that. I'm fish back here. And it don't seem tip heavy. It don't seem as tip heavy as something that's just going to whoop right out of your hand. It's not going to put too much pressure back here. It's not perfect by any means, but it is so close that you can fish with it all day. Now, something that's perfect, you're going to find in a lot shorter rods. Number one, you should be able to hold it just like this. You can see I'm not gripping it in any way, and it's sitting straight up. So that tells me my balance point of this one is going to be so close to my reel seat. I'm trying to maneuver in this room here. Right there is my balance point. This way you know I ain't leaning on nothing. That's my balance point. So when I'm fishing it, it's sitting straight up. It's like I'm holding nothing. That's where your balance comes in. So why is A, the balance, B, the length, C, the action so important? Okay, so let's start with A, the balance. You're not wearing yourself out. Do yourself a favor. So if your buddy does call you, hey, you want to fish a tournament? Yeah, you're good to go. You can fish 8, 10, 12, 15 hours and you're not killed. Now, if you are just a pond angler, you just go out 2, 3 hours at a time, by all means. It don't matter. You're not fishing these long periods of time, extensive amounts of time. It's not going to wear on you as bad. Okay. Let's go to B, the action of it. I already explained. Heavy is number one, heavy, and number two, it's more like a specialty deal. It's kind of like, how can I put it? It's kind of, I guess you could say it's like syrup. Syrup's only good for a number of things. You're not going to put syrup in your cereal. There you go. Pretend this is cereal and pretend your heavy rod is syrup. Now, the medium action, it's a more jerk bait, open hook baits, that sort of thing, because you're not having to penetrate that hook. Instead of reeling down and cracking on them, it's more of a sweep on them. Same thing as a crankbait. It's more of a sweeping motion because you don't want to rip that hook out. 9 times out of 10, when a bass eats something like an underspin, they've already ate the hook. So you stunk and you start reeling. A lot of people don't even set the hook. Some people just start reeling and come this way real faster and do this right here, fighting the fish. That's where your 7-foot medium heavy comes in. Now, why the length? Okay. To be honest with you, it's just personal preference. I've got a 6'10" heavy rod, but it performs like a medium action, in my opinion. I use it for jigs a lot. Now, why do I prefer that 6'10" now? Because it helps me skip. Now, with each jig, you can get as complex into this as you want. But if it's skipping, if it's throwing a heavy jig, a skipping, you need a shorter rod. A heavy jig, you need more than likely a heavy action rod. But I just read the specs on that. 1/4 to 3/4. So a 3/4, I would not throw on that. I would bump up to a heavy, something that's 3/4 to 1.5 ounces. That way it's still loading up and I'm not overpowering my gear. A 1/2 ounce is usually what I throw, jig wise. Now, that's enough about bait casters. If you're a spinning guy, same applications. You want enough stiffness to get that hook penetrated. And with spinning gear, it is a bit different because spinning gear, usually you're throwing light line. You don't have access to 15 or 20 pound line. Usually you're throwing 8 to 12 or less. Some of my spinning gear has 4, some of it has 6, some of it has 8, some of it has 20 pound braid to an 8 pound leader, or a 10 pound leader, or a 6 pound leader. You can go down this rabbit hole as far as you want to. But for the most part, to do everything, that 7-foot, 7'3" medium heavy is where you want to be. You can throw buzz baits, whopper floppers, spooks. You can even throw a topwater frog if you have to. Now, I'm not talking about middle of dog days. Don't be going out there and launching it in the middle of that slop. It will get them out, but it is putting a lot of stress on your blank. You can throw jigs, Texas rigs. You can throw chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, Carolina rigs. You can throw almost everything on that rod. Now, you're probably saying, well, what about A-rigging? What about glide baits? What about big swim baits? What about crankbaits? It will handle an A-rig. I would not recommend putting an A-rig on it. Once again, putting a lot of stress on that blank. So pretty much what I mean by stress on the blank is the lifespan of that rod. It will handle a hollow body swim bait just fine. But usually you're throwing a hollow body around grass. So what happens when that fish digs? You have no muscle, no backbone to rip it out of there. Now, you take a small fish, yeah, you can rip it out, no problem. But what happens to that one day you hook the fish of a lifetime? Be prepared for it. You don't want to miss that opportunity because you were trying to do something on the wrong application rod. That's what this is about. So, how do you identify the rod for you? How do you identify what's good for applications? That's what you should be asking yourself now. But on to the crankbait situation. It will handle crankbaits. Be good for crankbaits. You can feel with it. I mean, crankbaits, you can feel it. But what happens when you hook that fish and you're reeling him in, burning him, and then all of a sudden, boom, he gets off? Why? Why does people use these soft rods, the glass rods? It's really simple, guys. Here's all you have to do. So, bait caster. You have your handle, usually your drag star right here, and then your tension knob down here. So in between your handle and the tension knob, locate this. It's got a bunch of fingers on it. Back it off. Back it off. Now this is something you have to do at the pond, lake, river, stream, whatever. Because you want it just enough where you can reel that crankbait how you want to and it not be given. And if it gives, tighten it up 2 clicks. Now, when you feel more pressure, you hook that fish, this rod is eliminated. It's from your reel to the fish. Here's why I say that. He's pulling drag. You're wearing that fish out. So you hear about people talk about ripping the hooks out of fish. That's what it's from. They try to take a 7-foot medium heavy or a heavy action rod and go out here and throw a crankbait on it. And they have their drag all the way locked down. The same way they'd fish a jig. It don't work. I mean, I got my thumb and I can't. It's no wonder the treble hooks rip out. So, you could have just lost the fish of a lifetime. But guys, nonetheless, I hope this helps you pick out the perfect rod. This has been on my mind here. So, we got a couple videos coming out here tonight. So, just stay tuned. I hope this helped y'all pick your perfect rod and know what certain rods is good for each application. If you would like for me to go more in depth on some other rods I've got, reasons why I've got them, techniques I use them for, or just stuff that you can do and utilize these rods or tools, I call them tools, utilize these tools for to help you. I mean, I've got gobs. So, guys, hope this helps you. Always be sure to do something nice for someone, please, even if it's us saying hi, how are you? That goes a long way. So, be sure to check out Dogpatch Trading Post, Saddlebrook Outdoors, Kurt Singer Sunrise Outfitters, The Tackle Spot, Sun Tropic Outdoors, and Badwoods Outdoors for all your poor boy needs. Guys, thank y'all. I hope y'all have a blessed day, night, evening, whatever time it is, and I'm out.